So this is a nice website that shows, and this is why you obviously can't memorize every single part of a syntax or every syntax in every language and not have to reference. These all right here are the different things that we can do to an array. So we could sort, like I said, we could slice, we could check the size. Like if there's 10 items in a list in an array, we could do dot size and then it would return 10. So there's that. Pop. There's different ways to add information to it. We can tack a new information on the end. We can tack it onto the beginning. We can do a bunch of things like that. Hey, Mort. How's it going? I was just doing I missed my tutorial this morning, so doing it a little bit now since the channel was empty, and RPG Maker TV suggested just filling in some time here with part of the tutorial. How are you? If you want the channel, just let me know. I can pass it off to you, and I don't know. Well, I could always just pass it off to you. But for the main time, I'm just going through the arrays of scripting. So let's see, what else do I have? So we went through the arrays, scripting arrays, which are very useful. It's important to sort of know some of the arrays in scripting. So let's see, what else? Let's jump over to something we're going to manipulate pretty soon here. Probably a window. Make sure these are all, yeah, let's go through the window base real quick. It's unfortunate. I hope you feel better. The being sick is like a really, really crappy. It happens though, so it's best to rest and get through it. Maybe enjoy some TV or something in all your misery. Just to enjoy something for a little bit. Maybe make the best of it. So we also, that reminds me, we did go over super. So super basically, when we're using inheriting information, super allows us to inherit the information from the old method name. So from the old initialized, window has its own initialize. Everything has its own initialize basically, but window has its own initialize. And so we want to absorb all the things from that. We want to absorb the initialize from window, but we also want to add things to it. So what we would need to do is type initialize, followed by do the thing, then super. Super allows us to get all the information of the method and put it in here. So it takes the lines of code in the window initialize method and now inserts them here due to super telling it to do so. So super tells it to do that, and then we can add some more stuff to it. So in this case, self will refer to the class itself. It's a rather unique thing. I usually know when to use it. Well, actually, I only half the time know when to use it. So it's something that I'll probably have to research myself. But it's used for, I think, it refers to itself. It's basically pointing at itself and saying, do something to yourself. So it's something special though. There's a reason why it points to itself. I'll have to look that up. It's different in different languages. I learned it in Lua, and it's a little bit different here. So it's a very coder friendly thing that you kind of have to know the way code works together in order to figure it out. Oh, haha. All right. Yeah. No, you can actually add me on Skype. I'll let RPG Maker TV know to pass that information on. Yeah, the contact cards in Skype. I'll just have that passed on. Actually, I think my Skype name was in the top left there. Oh well, either way, not a big deal. All right, so update padding, update tone. These are all methods. They're calling methods, just like I already showed you. So you guys already know how to call methods, so no worries there. At opening equals at closing equals false. So this is a nice little thing. So if we want to set a whole bunch of variables as the same value, that we would just do that. So this is also the same as at opening equals false and at closing equals false. So this right here, this little line of code is the same thing as this. It's just a lot easier to do it all on one line. Looks cleaner, looks smoother. So that's how they did that. So so this is the dispose. We're using the super. So depending on where the super is placed, depends on where the extra information we're adding for that method is placed. So it's going to now do contents.dispose unless dispose, and then it's going to call all the information in the dispose one. So contents.dispose unless is a just like the opposite of if. So if we used if dog equals brown, the opposite of that would be unless dog does not equal brown. So unless is basically the opposite of if you ever see that. And we can also put, oh yeah, that's another way we can do the syntaxes of things. So fire equal, or no, oven equals hot if oven dot on. So if the oven is turned on, then it is hot. So this is another way to write that, which would be the same thing as if, oh, I typed it over, not a big deal. If oven equals, if oven dot on, oven equals hot in. So this right here is the same thing as this. So very, very good to know that. This, however, is on one line, so it looks smoother. It takes up less space. It's easier to read. It conforms to the English language very well. So that's a nice thing about that one. So sometimes writing code like that is useful. So you know how to do the returns. So anytime we call window-based.line height, we're going to get the number 24 back. So this return sends the information there. So if I had a special window like, see, there's a bunch of different windows. Go select window, and I saved the window base to that. Then I could do skill select window dot height, and that would be 24. So this was basically 24 because that's what is being returned from calling this method. Same thing with here. So the reason why these are here and is because we can manipulate them and change them. So they're very useful. I believe this is done because it's easier to read and find than if you had them up here as a variable. Not to mention you can manipulate the way we get the line height and the standard padding, which I believe they show you some stuff later on. So it's gonna be a little bit more advanced, but eventually it's good to learn when to do this, because this right now, this def standard padding is the exact same thing as adder reader. Yes. Standard padding. And then standard padding equals 12. So this is actually, this right here is the same thing as this. So if I put this into initialize and then had this, it's the same thing, because basically what we're doing is getting, we're calling this, here I'll show you why. So skill select window dot standard padding. So in this case, it's going to return 12. And in this case, it's going to return 12. So they're the same thing. And you'd ask yourself, why are they different? What's the point of making these different? So the reason why these are the same thing, and the reason why this is done instead of this, is because this base will be inherited. So Windows Select could possibly be inherited, and we might want to do something like def standard padding line height times 12 plus 2 int. So that would allow us to have a totally different standard padding by using a line of code. All right. So the way variables work is if I was to save this to a variable, the variable would be 24 times 12 plus 2. Whereas if somewhere down the line I wanted to change, if somewhere in the code after I declare standard padding, I also change line height. Here it's hard to, let me think of the best way to do this. Let's see. Okay, going back to it. This, if I save this to a variable, whatever line height is at the time is what the variable is going to be equal to. So if line height is 24 times 12 plus 2, 24, well, you know what, let's say line height's 2, just so that I can don't have to do crazy math sitting here. So, well, it's not that crazy. But 2 times 12, that would be 24 plus 2, so that would be 26. So that would become, the variable would be 26, basically. The variable would always be 26 until at some point later we change what it is. Whereas now that it's a method, whatever line height is, if I change line height somewhere down the line and then referenced standard padding through the method, it's going to check to see what this line height is, and it's going to be different. So variables, once you set the value of the variable, you have to change the variable again in order to get a new value. Whereas a method, it references variables and it references other methods, and if those are ever changed, every time we check the method, it'll be different. So one is a lot more static than the other. So there's a good reason to do it. If you practice a little bit, if you do the code, it'll start to click and make sense, and then you'll be good. So just try making some code, and at some point when you reach that point in the coding, you'll kind of think back and remember, hey, maybe I want to do it without variables and using a method. So just to make things easier, the reason you would want to use a variable instead, or a method instead of a variable, is if you have a formula. So if you have a formula, you usually want to use a method, not a variable. All right, so update padding, self So all this is stuff you should know. Standard padding,